Good. Thank you, Yash Parikh, for coming and gracing us with your presence.
Pleasure is mine.
This will legitimize the Adda, I think. Let's see how it goes. But then, yeah, that's all. So,
Fingers crossed.
finger crossed. So, the folks, the gentleman who is sitting right next to me is a multifaceted, handsome guy. We'll learn a lot of things about him. And if you get a chance to go through his LinkedIn profile, so you'll see that what all things that he has done. So he's Mr. Yash Parikh, and he has done his bachelor's in mechanical engineering,
That's correct.
and then master's in computer integrated manufacturing,
That is correct.
and then he comes to US
Yeah.
where he did his PhD.
Yeah.
So that's why he's Dr. Yash Parikh.
Yeah.
And then there are a lot of things. So let me start
Sure.
by asking you, Indian
Sure.
mentality,
Sure.
or I would say the way that we have the ages that we have been born up,
Sure.
or the thing that is a little bit confusing for us, for our generation. What we do first, we do engineering. We don't know whatever stream that may be. Then we do MBA.
Sure.
Then we do work in IT, and then work the lab. But one thing that I have seen here,
True.
that you are pretty much consistent,
True.
right? Like
True.
mechanical and whatever I know, which we'll talk about,
Sure.
like whatever you're working right now,
Sure.
is based on that particular thing. So you already knew that what you wanted in your life, or how you knew?
No, so let me start by saying thank you so much for for inviting me for your podcast, and then thank you so much for your generous word about me. As HM mentioned, I'm Yash Parikh, and pleasure to be here. My background is actually interesting to answer that question. I have to go back a little bit and explain you the kind of upbringing that I got. So I am from a small place or a city called Valsad in Gujarat state.
Okay.
And that Valsad is pretty, for the audience, it's pretty famous for 3-4 things. Number one is one of our ex-prime minister used to be from Valsad. He was
Okay.
born there, Morarji Bhai Desai.
Oh, nice.
So Morarji Bhai Desai was born in Valsad. So he was from Valsad. So he was very famous because he became prime minister. Narendra Modi is also there, but he doesn't belong to Valsad. He is from Gujarat, but he is near Ahmedabad. Second famous thing is Alfonso mango.
Oh, one of the
best mangoes is
one can have.
One can have. It's at par.
It's pretty
with-
expensive
It's
as
pretty
well.
expensive,
Yeah.
and it is at par with Ratnagiri,
Okay.
which is from Maharashtra.
Okay.
So that is second. Third is chiku. If you like chiku fruit, that is Valsad is known for that. Couple of other things as well. But growing up in a school which has produced prime minister, like he was the student of the school, sort of had that inside of me that sort of spark that, oh wow, a person who is studying here, who used to study in the school, has become a prime minister. That was a big thing. And then my both parents were professors, and then they have studied in entire their career, and I have one elder brother who has also studied. So I'll give you a background of both my parents have a PhD, and they have studied like BA, MA, MPhil, LLB, PhD. So they have like multiple degrees.
Right.
And my father was a professor of Gujarati language, and my mother was professor of Hindi language. So I had both influence of both the languages growing up as well. And my elder brother, who is like 5 years elder to me, was setting up the benchmark for how to be the idealistic, big brother. So he nurtured me during my upbringing. But I was the most notorious kid ever that stepped foot in my school. I was every single day I used to be involved in some sort of fight or something like that. Till 10th standard, this all went through, and my brother reached to a second year or third year of engineering because of the 5 years gap, right? He used to show me some cool parts, like the lathe machine at that time was one such thing, that he would show me the blank rectangular job, and then he would show me a fancy part which was turned or machined on lathe, and he used to bring that and show it to me that, hey, brother, you want to see how I made this? So those sort of things, and his projects on automobile and other things like CAD CAM, Drafter, and everything that has inspired me to be like, oh wow, I want to do something like that. I want to go into that route. But 11th and 12th, I didn't do very well in my engineering. Towards my engineering, I didn't do good in terms of my grades. So I was like taken aback in terms of, okay, what's my future look like in terms of, okay, what am I gonna do in terms of reaching to a better institute or getting admitted in a very good university? Because my result was not that A plus
Still,
or something
yeah.
that I could get into an
Right.
IIT sort of
Right.
engineering college. So my next immediate goal was to get to a decent university and then take it from there. So my brother had that influence of mechanical engineering, and that chose sort of that in itself became a path for me, that okay, I would also go with mechanical engineering because there is some cool thing that you could do. So with that, I got into a bachelor's university of Pune. Its college is nearby Shirdi Sai Baba temple. The place is called Kopargaon. So it's like 30 minutes from Shirdi and about 1.5 hours from Nasik. So I studied there, and I studied like 4 years in that remote place, which has nothing else to do. Our weekend getaway was visiting Sai Baba temple and stuff around that little town.
Right.
But growing up from 2004 to 2008 has matured myself in a way that okay, I could sustain outside my comfort zone or home into a completely different state, which has a different spoken language, different food habits and stuff like that. So culture, absolutely.
Right.
So that has broadened my kind of horizon. And I would come to my master's point in a minute, because
Yeah.
during my engineering, I started performing from a very mediocre level to topping up 2 subjects in my 4th year. That journey has been quite interesting, because I studied from my kindergarten to 12th standard in a Gujarati language school, meaning I had English as a subject and not as a spoken language.
Got it.
So when
and
I
to pivot from that.
so from 12th standard, I have studied everything in Gujarati language, including mathematics, including biology, including chemistry, in a Gujarati
Awesome.
language. And then to kind of grasp everything in an English language was a very difficult task for me for the first year. So I knew the sum that was being solved, like the function of x that we used to call, like the
Right.
equation, and everything I knew in Gujarati, but I
Right.
couldn't express myself. So I was very kind of silent and kind of
Student, yeah.
studious sort of approach.
I just hold you for you.
Sure,
Then
sure.
We'll go to that journey of masters. And
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
But then there are 2 things. One thing you talked about, that when you have to translate everything
Yeah.
from Gujarati into Hindi in your mind and then speak out.
Yes.
So that kind of made you a little bit introvert compared to the other folks.
Absolutely.
Right?
I had less confidence in me
Of
in
course.
terms of expressing, because I still remember some of the professors used to call out and say, hey, introduce yourself,
Yeah.
and for the first class.
Right,
and I used
right.
to just say my name and sit down. There is nothing
Right,
else
right,
that
right,
I
mean,
was able to
you
talk to.
had a lot of
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
but then that's maybe in Gujarati or Hindi,
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
You were saying that this is the first time what impression I might put on him.
Yes, absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So one more question I wanted to ask you, because you talked about your elder brother and your father and
Yeah,
mother, so all
yeah.
3 inspirations. And just one thing, like you talked that your father was a professor of Gujarati,
Gujarati.
mother the professor of Hindi.
Hindi, right.
So one question automatically comes to my mind, that because I have my sister who
Yeah.
has done her masters and now she's
Sure.
doing her PhD in Bengali.
Yeah.
So when you talk about literature, who
Yeah.
are like language which are very rich, so I see I got a lot of influence from her when I speak or when I read something.
Right,
okay?
right.
So because she speaks about a novel with so much passion,
Absolutely.
and like all those emotions that are going inside very simple stories which I
True.
would have really neglected, but then when she puts those kind of things,
True.
like, oh, this is a really different perspective.
Yes.
So I was asking, like, because you had both the parents who are
Yes.
from the literature
Yeah,
background,
yeah.
so that didn't caught your attention.
So that was one of the mind baffling thing, because some of the poems that I used to get in Gujarati, like standard sixth poem in
Right.
Gujarati language,
Right.
the person who wrote that he used to visit my place. Like the guy,
My
like
goodness.
there is a very famous kavi called Ushnas. Ushnas in Gujarati is a big name.
Okay.
So he used to visit our place, and I used to study that in so the way I have seen that in my house, the presence of had very like deep influence in
Right.
terms of going into that
Right,
that
right.
literature
Right.
sort of thing. But eventually I was more sort of a practical and fascinated by the toys and the gadgets that were shown to me, which
Boys
in a
club.
way boys club couldn't put me in that background. But now I look back and I was like, okay, I could have done something in regards to my skills in that. But I received a lot of good feedback because of how the home environment was very kind of in around philosophy and in and around having that mind. I still remember vividly that my father used to wake up around sometime morning 4 o'clock and take his time to write a novel or something like that. So he has published over 25 novels. Yeah, so I have seen his, and they have both done a PhD when we were growing up. So I could see them study in their room and kind of take care of their children and also do something like a PhD for over 5.5 years, 6 years. So that has always impressed me, like how my parents have being very studious, at the same time very friendly. They were friends.
See,
to
that's
us.
what, right? Like,
Yeah.
even if, like,
Yeah.
you are a student throughout your life,
Yeah,
right? You
exactly.
keep on learning.
Yeah.
But then, like, if you have somebody in your home who is actually preparing presentations,
True, exactly.
research
Research work,
all
yes.
those stuff. So,
I will share so much. I don't know what's the time limit here for. One fine day, and I'll finish my master's journey in a minute, because since you mentioned my father was a learned person, because once he would read a book, he would go in class without any book and explain stuff, right? He would never carry a textbook in his life in the classroom. I have attended so many of his lectures and my mother's lectures as well, in the last bench, and every situation.
And every time you've been fascinated.
Yeah, I've fascinated myself. One fine day I come back from school, and what I see is my room full of chocolates, right? Full of Cadbury 5 rupees chocolate back in the day.
Yeah.
And I am like completely going
Nuts.
That how on earth I have like my bed
So
full of
chocolates.
chocolates, and it's like more than 80 to 100 chocolates.
Was it your birthday or what?
No, it wasn't my birthday. It was nothing special. I was like completely taken by surprise, right? So I rush out from my room with like couple of chocolates in my pocket, and one I'm holding, and I was like, what is this? Why is there so many chocolates? So my father was like, ask your mom. So I asked my mom, like, what's going on? And she was like, your father won a bet, and this is the result of that. And I was like, I did not get it. So explain me, please. And she was like, the entire classroom said that, the thing that you are teaching is not in the book or something like that.
Okay.
And my father said it's on this page number and this para of
My
the book.
goodness.
And the thing what happened is somebody said that it's not there, and let's have a bet.
But,
And my father said, what's the bet?
Yeah.
With the students, like, what do
yeah,
you expect?
Yeah.
So there has to be a bet with something.
Yeah.
And I will open the book and I will cross check.
Yeah. So we bring chocolates.
So what happened is one of the students said, if we lose, we'll give you a 5 rupee chocolate.
Okay.
And my father said, okay, and what about me?
Yeah.
Same applies to you. You would give 5 rupees chocolate to the entire class.
Entire class.
And my father said, perfectly fine. So one of the persons stood up, went to get the book from the library, opened up the exact page number what my father said during the class, and there you go. So the next day, everybody bought the chocolate and gave it to my father, and he distributed so much in like around but still it was so much that he brought home. So these episodes, these instances have always nurtured in my mind some sort of impression that you have to be really good at what you do. You cannot rest for saying that this is the benchmark. There is always something that you can achieve. Like this
reminds me of one of the stories that my father used to tell me. So when Vivekananda used to go to library, and then he used to bring a book every day and then return the book. So one day library asked, "What are you doing with this book? Are you like you return the next day? What is happening?" So he said, "Like ask me anything, like the way White Cross and suits, right? Like ask me anything. I know, right? So that shows how much consideration your dad must have while reading those things, right? And these things, I'm sure, like when you're saying to me, I mean, it's like I'm getting goosebumps.
Yes, I felt that.
Right?
Yeah, and lived through that.
You lived through that.
Yes.
And then you talked about your school, like school having prime ministers, poets coming to your
Poets,
home,
yes.
right? Your dad giving bets for like remembering exact page without carrying the book back to class.
Exactly.
These are like phenomenal
So
things,
these are instances of when I look back, I was like, okay, I'm somehow inspired by these small points.
Right.
In journey, we always say, what's your hook? What's your, as you correctly mentioned, how do you be so focused on what you do, or how you end up what you do right now? The journey, the answer lies in these small bits and pieces along the way. And this is still my childhood. I have narrated similar experiences have gone after I got married, after I met Ruchita. I how the life has been so far. So there are instances, and we'll talk about that. But yeah. So coming back to my master's journey, in the bachelor I have...
So just before that, your elder brother, he's 5 years...
Yes, he's 5 years older.
And what he does?
He is right now, he's manager with Larsen and Toubro.
Nice.
L&T in Surat, Hazira.
Right. It's one of the, don't know, it's one of the biggest construction company.
Biggest construction, biggest engineering company.
They have software
yes, absolutely.
As well, so like
they are into everything. They're conglomerate.
So that's the thing. He's also mechanical.
So he's also mechanical. He did his masters from NIT Bhopal.
Nice.
Back in the day, that NIT was called something else.
Regional IC.
Yes. So it was Maulana Azad Regional Institute of Technology or something, where he, at the time when he did his MTech, he did his MTech in maintenance. So that was also very fascinating, and I'll talk about that as well. How I visited him in Bhopal, and it was a really pretty city, Bhopal, back in the day. So yeah, so he did his MTech, got internship at L&T, and he's been with L&T ever since.
Awesome.
So 15, 16 years.
I mean, you get your calling and then you don't go away from that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's the story.
So you landed up to this college, and then your graduation journey starts.
Graduation journey starts. I am very fumble in first year of expressing myself, but then I made.
But you always had the thought in your mind, because you're philosophical. You have stories to tell. It's just that the language barrier,
or that expression, or.
And even if maybe you were good in English as well, but you had that little feeling that maybe I could be wrong or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And the second HM interesting thing was after 10th, there were like not a cohort situation of studying. Like you have a boys and a girls classroom separate and stuff like that. So from that environment going back to co-ed.
So like you become more conscious and everything.
More conscious and everything, right? Because you have now like 80 plus students in a class, 40, 50.
And the age is also that, right? I mean, like you get those hormones and all those things, right?
And then you're settling up in a completely new environment, away from home.
I'm sure like your father, your mother would be there in your school, throughout your school.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But then now nobody's there, right? And then like it's totally a different thing altogether.
So, and that mindset is very kind of fragile in terms of having pressure to perform.
Right.
always getting that benchmark of my brother that he has now gone into exploring masters.
Right.
He's now in your first year
So
of
was there
MTech.
any pressure to you?
No, not pressure,
like that
but
you
I
have-
would say
it's your internal.
internally.
Why
that
you have done
Yes,
so that like,
yeah.
you have made your like benchmark that I have to be like my
I have to be like my brother.
or like my
yeah.
father or whatever.
Exactly. And like how learned
So
they
have you
are.
felt pressured like during those times?
I would not say pressured because I always thought that taking pressure would not help me in achieving any of the goal. But I was always focused that I have to get this thing correct, done, and in a manner that if somebody asks me about it, I should be able to speak about it.
Yeah.
You know, not just for sake of doing it.
And
So
when I hear your words,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm thinking of a guy who is just crossing 12 exam.
Yes,
12th
yeah,
exam.
12th exam.
And
About
having
17
all-
years old.
Right, and having
Yeah.
all these thoughts,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that like I have to be like that, you have
Yeah,
set your benchmark,
yeah,
you have
yeah.
set your future. It's
Exactly.
really phenomenal because
Yes.
I remember like when I'm in my first year in college, I guess like one of my professor asked me like they keep on asking me like what do you want to be in your life?
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like I don't know at this point of time.
Yes, exactly,
Wherever time
exactly.
will take me, wherever
Yeah, yeah.
wherever I'll be there. Like
Exactly.
I'll see it over there.
Sure.
But when I see see you talking, it seems you have kind of figured out because you have somebody to look up.
Yes, exactly. So that was that's a blessing in house like that, and I had always called my father back in terms of any questions that I might have, in terms of any difficulty that I'm having. But daily communication with parents also helped. My
Right.
brother also, and they surprisingly visited me during my
Right.
growing up years in that
Right.
education journey.
Right.
I would
so
say.
how that from like a little bit fumbling guy to a confident guy? How that
Yes. So
transformation?
big. I would say the biggest chunk of the credit goes to one of my roommates / one of my best friends, who was a very outspoken person. His name is Jimit Kansara. He nurtured me in a way, saying that who are you trying to impress, or who are you trying to fear from?
Exactly.
Like, what are you fearing?
Right.
You have everything that life can give you at this point. Why are you not expressing yourself?
Right.
So when we used to sit together, he forcefully made me sit on the first bench with him, and his introduction, as I told you, should last for about 5 minutes, because he would talk about how he
which book he liked,
which book he liked, how he grew up in a nice environment where they have a resident on top and a factory on the bottom, like ground floor, and all the stamping and cool stuff that his parents and uncles did, and how he kind of, so he would amaze the entire audience in the class for listening to him for 5 minutes, and then next, like professor would say next, and then I would speak up like I'm this guy and I'm from this place, and then sit down.
This
So
is destiny, man.
this is destiny,
like having
exactly.
somebody
Yeah,
like so
yeah.
extrovert
Yeah.
and supportive,
Supportive.
and supportive in a way. Right?
Yeah.
I remember one of the like,
Yeah.
lesson that we used to have in class 12. William Ashby's letter to his son.
Yeah, yeah,
So like
yeah.
what that guy used to do is he wrote few letters to his
Sure,
son,
sure.
like who was going embracing those teenagers and all those things. So one thing he wrote that you're not the only person. You should always remember you're not that important.
Exactly.
So it's always like that. So like when he asked you like who are you fearing from?
Yeah,
So like
exactly.
there's nothing to be fear, right? Something like that. But somebody has to put that notion on your head.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. And that was something that I would give credit to him, because in that environment, away from parents, when you talk to parents, you don't bring up some things like that. They know that you are outspoken person, you are kind of extrovert, but now you have become an introvert because of the language barrier, and they don't know about this
Right.
thing. So having
These are
an
your inner
immediate-
struggles.
inner struggles, and having somebody who is your roommate,
Right.
who knows your potential.
Right.
So I would wholeheartedly give credit to him, and we have been great friends
And sometimes
ever
what
since
happens,
then. And
your parents don't see any fault in their children.
Right, exactly,
So some
exactly.
third eye.
Third
or
eye,
like,
exactly.
That perspective like can do wonders.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. So growing up in the second year, then I kind of got involved into debates and other extracurricular activities.
That's transformation. I would
Yes,
say, right?
yes. I would not fear. I would express myself. By the third year, I was organizing stuff. I was
Awesome.
all the leadership quality that I have got is because of just volunteering in different societies and ASTM, ASME, back in the day,
Right,
IEEE and all.
Right,
In the university, I've just signed up for those, and meeting with different sort of professors, going across the departments from electronics, telecommunication to civil engineering.
Right.
And the fun thing, and I could say this on this podcast, is that because of doing all of this in third year, my final years, the oral exam, the Viva exam, used to be a very chilled out exams, because the professors knew who I was and how studious I was. At the same time, how I contributed to different departments, success stories, and being it publishing first magazine of the school, of the department, taking different opinions of different students and making changes in the department in terms of what they demanded. Like, for example, having like prolonged extension of reading room needs to be open for duration of the time more than what it used to be. Like, it used to close at 7 p.m. but
Right now,
everybody
12
wants it like
right.
till 12 a.m. So
Right.
taking these initiatives, talking to head of the departments about all of this. So
the
amount of exposure that I received because of how
monitoring.
yeah, so I was fascinated, and that helped me later in my life. But coming back to that point, in those exams, my introduction used to be given to the examiner by the professor. He would say that this guy is this, and he has a tremendous track record of scoring this much percentage, and at the same time he has helped with so many other students and all.
Nice.
So I have
What proud feeling?
proud feeling, yeah,
Right.
at that time. And then I have closed out my bachelor's journey with first class with distinction.
Awesome.
And at least out of 142 students, I've scored highest for 2 subjects.
Awesome.
And one of them was CAD, computer aided design, and that actually took me to the next step of my master's journey, which is computer integrated manufacturing.
So I want to hear,
Yeah.
basically, folks like us who has graduated from engineering college,
Yeah.
our first
Sure.
thing was to secure a job
Yeah.
and go there.
Absolutely.
And I know my wife, she has done her engineering in electrical,
Yeah.
and she has a dream
Mhm.
that to work in a
Mhm.
core company,
Mhm.
which she couldn't get a chance. So at the end, she just opted out for TCS,
Yeah.
and then now she is working as a software and whatever.
Sure,
it is.
sure.
So what was your thing?
So
on that?
my father was like, once you have in that element of studying, if you would take a break and do couple of years of industry work, you might lose that interest and lose that nick that you have right now of studying.
And maybe
So-
you would start earning something.
And totally
that-
you would
that can
and then
test the blood.
that exactly was the case. So he said, if you ever want to do a master's, and during this growing up also in the journey of engineering, by the time third year came, people were preparing for masters in the United States, and I've seen couple of friends that they have, back in the day, similar to GATE, they were preparing for GRE. And back in the day, there was like for 1500 points or something, or 2100 points. So they were all preparing for that, and I've seen
your
them.
roommate?
And my roommate has a straightforward thought process that I would just do my bachelor's and I would help my father's business, and I would then see if I can get into a different industry. Right now he's working at Apple though, so one of the few employees in India who has established the plant in Chennai, which produces iPhone 14 in India.
So I guess whosoever nobody has gone into software thing.
Absolutely,
Most of them is kind
yes,
of stuck to that.
Yes,
mechanism.
except my wife who is actually into softwares. We'll talk
It's a
about
good thing.
we'll talk about her as well.
But you were pretty clear that
I was clear.
that
Yeah.
you don't want to take any job. You want to.
I want to finish up this what I have started.
Yeah.
PhD was not in the picture.
Horizon, but then at least-
not at all was thought at that time.
Right.
So at least I was doing master's preparation in terms of in my head that okay, I would do master's and then I would find a good job.
And because you have scored highest in CAT,
CAT,
so like I could understand you have an interest.
Yes,
right,
yeah.
right.
And CAD Cam was very fascinating at that time. That I've secured the highest mark, and probably that's fascinated me to select master's discipline. That okay, within the mechanical engineering,
Right.
where do you want to go? Thermodynamics, heat transfer, fluid mechanics.
So that's why this
So
computer
integrated manufacturing is sort of a domain within CAD, which is to facilitate at that time flexible manufacturing systems, what you call IoT 4.0 at this point,
Right.
where digital factories are
Right.
everything is now. 10 years back, you take that.
Just imagine.
It has just started flexible
Genesis
manufacturing.
of those, right?
Exactly, one
Right.
part, one system, and coming out from the thought process that okay, you can build only this part on this system instead. Why not to try like multiple parts on a single system?
Right.
So different CNC setups. How would you
That
do
must
it?
have been revolutionary.
Very at that time.
Yeah. At that
And
time.
I did my masters from Dayanand Sagar College of Engineering in Bangalore. So that was a very reputed college, and it is affiliation with Vishweshwaraya Technological University, VTU Belgaum.
Okay.
Belgavi right now, its name has changed. So I was university first rank in MTech. I received my gold medal from His Excellency Governor of Karnataka. Yes, so I've received a gold medal. I have a picture I'll show you later. And then that was a journey that in the masters I didn't feel any sort of neither pressure. I was just enjoying because something that I loved, I was doing that. So
Right.
being coming out as a top candidate
Right,
was something that was out of passion.
I mean, many people can call it a cliche, but
Yes.
at the end of the day, if you're doing what you love, I mean, you don't have to do anything, right?
Exactly.
And
It never felt like struggle. It always felt
Right,
like
right.
I'm enlightening myself
Right,
because
right.
the subjects that
You're
I'm
like
studying.
Chatur
yeah,
in
yeah,
three
yeah.
years, right? Something like
Absolutely,
that.
absolutely.
Just grab knowledge from wherever you get.
That experience really helped me, and I did my 1-year project for MTech from Larsen and Toubro again, L&T in Bangalore.
After completing masters.
No, during
During
the master's there was a component for doing a master's thesis,
Okay.
and that thesis was done in the industry.
Oh.
That was on a project for hydraulic excavators. If you have seen JCB across different places,
Right.
I've
So those
worked
are
on hydraulic excavators produced by L&T.
So we know it JCB, so that's
Exactly. So those are called hydraulic excavators, and L&T has a tie-up of 51 to 49% with Komatsu. So Komatsu
Japanese.
is a Japanese company, and L&T, of course. So L&T Komatsu has a plant in Byatranpura in Bangalore, near to
So there
airport.
you went to take.
So I went there every single day during my master's second year, and have taken few courses at the same time. I have attended almost 7 months, worked on a project, come out from that project with a very nice results, something that was very impressive to the management. And they have offered me a job at that time as well, that why don't you continue what you are doing here? You got your master's completing in a month or so after graduation. Please feel free to join.
Is this common in your university to have a research work in your master's?
So in masters, yes, the courses that I've selected are the MTech stream that I have went through had a component of thesis,
Got it.
but that thesis could be done with the professor as well. There was an
Right.
option.
Got
It was not that you have to always go and seek industry and
Right.
then do it.
Got
There
it.
was still a professor who was attached to me,
Right.
but he was more sort of overseeing
Right.
what I was doing. So
and you were never afraid of like Mars or anything, right?
No, absolutely,
You
because-
had to do that, so you
yeah,
just went
so
there.
I just went there, and then my percentages were something that was all open for professors to see.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they never questioned like
Until the time, right?
Yeah.
You must have created your aura or reputation
Yeah,
as such
yeah,
that nobody would
yeah,
question you. That
yeah.
like there could be folks who just don't want to be in the college or doing thesis under the professor because they want to like having good time or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
Or
Yes.
something like that.
So in that sense, I have submitted the thesis.
And it was very well received.
It was very well received. I have received a letter of appreciation. On my LinkedIn page, you would see team photo of L&T employees. I was standing there. Letter of appreciation as well.
Nice.
So yeah, that was really good.
So what happened when they offered you like job?
They offered me a job, but then I had to take into consideration that I'm staying in Bangalore, and then at that time I had not a good experience in terms of talking with local people in terms of a different language. I could have sustained in Maharashtra with some knowledge of Hindi, which is very well accepted.
Right.
But in Bangalore, in 10 years back,
Kannadiga.
it's always Kannada. So talking wise, there was a barrier, because in industry you would definitely have to talk to people who are workers, blue collar population, because you are now like at that level that you have to delegate.
Right.
And
I guess because it's more of a you're doing a job at ground zero.
Exactly.
It's not that like you are just working with some sophisticated people in the office and that your work not done. It's not like that.
It's
you
like
have to
you are on the
hands dirty and
you are
inside.
You are on the production line.
Right.
So the production people were all. So I'm not saying that the language barrier has opposed my decision of not going there, but I was comparing that whether I want to stay in Bangalore for next 5 years after what I've achieved here. So I had an opportunity to do a PhD from IISc Bangalore as well.
Awesome.
At that time, one of the professors said, "You have come out with flying colors. You have university first
the
round."
best institute of the country. Right.
I have a friend, professor, colleague, and I could recommend.
Just
you
go there and talk to him.
go there and talk to him, and if you want to do a PhD, you can just continue the journey there.
So till that time, what have you decided that you were to do work or you still
No.
want to
So at
study
that
or-
time, I called my parents and they visited me in Bangalore. We went for a road trip, and during that time, I spoke with my father. I said, "This is the dilemma that I have. Can I go with PhD offer that I am having? There's this university, there's this industry that is offering me, and at the same time, because of my award and all, my professor reached out to me from bachelor's, who was keeping track of my progress. He was very happy that I have scored university first rank. He invited, if you
So in masters also you started you scored like gold medal?
Yeah, in masters I got gold medal. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. In bachelor's university, professor reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have seen your journey and you have completed your masters and you have gold medalist. Are you thinking of becoming a professor one day? Because we have an opening, and we would love to have you." So there were like 3 job offers. Job offers were 2, and 1 for doing a PhD.
Right.
So one
3
for
things, yeah.
1 for PhD, 1 for professorship,
And 3
one-
totally different things.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I was super confused at that time.
One academia,
One academia,
research,
one research, one
industry work.
industry.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness.
And I've done all 3 in my life. And I would talk to that point, and which I enjoyed the most and all. I'll talk about that.
So
in a
what did
minute.
you choose at that point of time?
So at that
and how
point,
did you choose that?
Yeah, at that point, I was in a dilemma, and then as I told you, my parents visited, and we had a good trip for 15-20 days. Out of everything, like all of these things that is bothering me, we were into completely different,
detached
yeah,
from everything.
And then
on this question.
And then one fine day during the trip, he said that think about yourself for what you would like, what sort of a legacy you would like to have.
My goodness.
Think about
just
that.
imagine.
Think about that.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm just thinking that the guy who is just, I was telling you, right?
Yeah.
After 12th, you had your things clear.
Yes.
Now, after masters, you're talking about your legacy. What
Yes.
is it?
Yeah.
I mean, this is beyond.
So he asked me like, what is that
Okay,
you would like to do? He would never force his decisions on me. He would always inspire in asking the right questions.
Right questions.
And that is
To
the
take
one
your
question.
mind to the right place.
Exactly. Just like how my best friend asked me a question, who are you afraid of?
Right. That's one
Similarly,
question that changed your
one
life.
question changed my life. So
Right.
similarly, what sort of legacy you want to establish and leave behind? And I was like, very deep question. And then I gave a thought. I was like,
But see, that has a lot to do with your upbringing, with all the
Yeah,
like
exactly,
philosophical background
exactly.
that you had from
exactly.
your childhood.
It came from there.
Right, you could
Yes.
understand such a deep question, and you
Yes.
know, I mean,
And not laugh out and
not laugh
yeah.
out and not just judge at
Not
that point of
just-
time.
yeah.
Just wait, keep a step back, and
Step-
think
and
on that,
think on
right?
that.
Right.
So always 30,000 feet view is a part of the
Right.
decision making process.
Right.
We go too narrow.
Right, tunnel vision.
In tunnel vision, we are just restricted that we don't step out and see the big picture.
Right.
We are very small,
I mean,
tiny.
you know, while talking to you, these things, I mean, we keep on talking about that,
Sure,
right? You
sure.
should have the big picture,
Yeah.
you should have like
Yeah.
different perspectives.
Exactly.
But like, these are actual life scenarios where one would have taken a proper
Absolutely.
360 degree or like eagle eye
exactly.
view or something like that, right?
Yes, and that has happened, and then
What was your decision?
and my decision was that at this point I think I should go and teach because I am passionate about what I have studied, and it's best to express this to students and young generation. So I have accepted the offer of joining to the university, and there was a formal interview with about 20 odd candidates, and then for a position of just 2 assistant
My
professor.
goodness.
So I was there, and I would talk to that how my interview went and how was that experience. But completing this master's thing, asking the right question at the time, that where do I want to go from there, choosing the right path of okay, I would like to definitely go and become a professor. Assistant professor in engineering college in India is at that time did not require a PhD.
Right.
Back in 10 years, I'm
Right,
talking
right,
about.
right.
Now it's mandatory.
Right, now
but
it's mandatory.
yeah. So then I was like, okay, I should go and give it a try. So I've completed everything, wind up my Bangalore journey, and then came back. Hardly stayed home for about a week. And
No,
then
so
I had
like this thing was near your home? No, this thing was Visakhapatnam, right?
so which one?
The Pune.
Pune.
The university was in
yeah,
Pune.
university is in Pune. My job was in Pune, and
So you got selected.
no, I would come down
So
to that.
you gave interview and then you came to your home.
Yeah, so I gave interview, I got selected, and then I put everything and came back to home. Stayed there for about 10-15 days, and then I went.
I'll go and
And join the institute.
Yeah.
And
Meanwhile,
the journey was they have called 20 odd people, and they have all masters. Some of them were doing masters because they were completing the
Right,
like a thesis submission and
Right,
stuff.
right,
So they
right.
were all valid candidates.
Right.
So now the professors and head of the department and the principals have called the most notorious batch of students in the class, and have specifically instructed them to make as much chaos as possible while something is being taught to them, because they want to see how
So
the
that was-
professor is controlling the class.
So that was during the interview process.
During
or after?
that was the interview
Interview.
process. I have to teach for 13 minutes.
The most notorious
yeah,
guru
because
you
now
can have.
they have given this green signal, right?
Right.
That you have to make as much noise as possible.
See?
And if a principal is telling you that, you are
By
going to go
default,
crazy,
you were
right?
designed to make
Because
chaos.
they want to see.
Yeah.
And the whole first 2 rows were all professors, principals, head of the department of other branches as well. Mechanical, electronic, computer science. Others also have sat, and they were all given judgment sheet where the scorecard would be given to
Yeah.
them, right?
You were being reviewed properly.
Yes, and I was 23 years old. Wore half shirt and like a jeans on the day of interview because I was like, okay, that will be a casual interview
Yeah.
because I did
Question
not
answer,
put.
question answer.
Yeah, I didn't
Which you-
put my tie and all,
everything,
right?
yeah.
So I sat there for almost like 10-15 people have completed the interview. Then they called me. I went there, and then of course, what you expect when you go there, you would see like crazy amount of noise coming from students and all. Then I started talking about the journey, about how my struggles were during my bachelor's. I started saying I was just like you. I started that sort of very open, not making sure that I'm here to teach and you have to listen forcefully. Rather, I started a dialogue. I said I was exactly like you. You were able to express yourself. Imagine I was not able to express myself. And from that journey, I have got through all of this. I've completed my master's.
Just one comment there.
Yeah.
So like, there are two things that you have done here, right? One, you have shown your vulnerability.
Yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly.
See, even if I'm a teacher,
Yeah.
I'm as much vulnerable as
Exactly,
you are.
exactly,
Right?
exactly.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
And second thing you talked about, you did not force anything.
Yeah.
Because like I see in your ecosystem from
Yeah.
childhood till now,
Yeah.
you have never been
Never
forced.
been forced.
So
exactly.
like that thing was playing its own role without even you knowing it.
Exactly.
Right?
So when I said that, the first 5-minute conversation was not at all technical. It was more sort of, I know what you want to do here. I know how this thing works. I used to do always like this. But if
Just
an interview
to get the nerves.
get the nerves
And
to
just
calm
to
myself
establish.
as exactly. And then I said, all of these chaotic expressions are justified if you know the technicalities of it. Do you know this rule? Do you know X law? Do you have any understanding how this bolt is designed? Do you know what a factor of safety in this system looks like? Do you know anybody? Can you tell me? No, right? That's the level that you have, and you are shouting at a professor.
My goodness. I really like this.
So I said that, and that has opened up that, oh, here is this guy who knows a thing or two, but we are just harassing him because we just want to do that.
Right. And
And
rather than forcing your thoughts to them, what
Yeah.
you have done, invoke questions.
Invoke questions, right?
Inquisitive
Yeah.
minds.
Yeah.
They're already inquisitive minds,
Yeah.
right? Awesome.
So I was like, if you don't know, that's what I'm gonna teach.
Right.
So please patiently listen.
Awesome.
30 minutes, they'll give me job.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
The only question my head of the department, my principal asked me, how would you do, where would you stay? How would you figure out
Right,
all
all
of
those
this?
accommodation
All of
things,
the,
yeah.
those were the questions.
Questions.
I was like, I have a friend here from my bachelor's,
Nice.
and he said he'll be happy to host me for a week or two.
Right. And then I'll figure
And
it
then
out.
I'll figure out in this 15 days.
Right.
So yeah, so it was from
Such a
that
nice
day.
story, man.
Yeah,
Such
it
a
was.
nice story.
It was a.
And such it's very inspirational as well, right? I mean,
yeah, it
just
happened
imagine
like
a guy who is 23 years old, as you
Yeah,
said, right?
yeah.
Like what you would have thought and what things
So
would have gone through your mind.
I would not boast about myself here, but if you got a chance, just go through my LinkedIn recommendations. There are about 94, 95 recommendations.
Nice.
These are all from students, professors, colleagues who have taught me, who have been with me.
Right.
One thing that I noticed in this pattern is about how open I was with them. I never made them feel like I'm teaching them something
Right.
or I'm superior to them.
Right. That's
That ground reality has always been mentioned by everybody.
Nice.
It is very grounded in terms of
nice. The approach is
the
very
approach
grounded.
is very grounded.
Right. I mean,
That you are here to learn,
Right.
and I'm here to teach because I know thing or more,
thing or two,
do more
that's it,
than
right,
you.
Right.
Just
And
because I
next
have studied,
day-
like yeah.
Next day you will.
I might be completely wrong here,
Right.
but this is the approach that I have.
Awesome.
So they have looked up friendly in me. So I have become sort of a figure in university which is very well approachable.
Nice.
Students not only had academic problems, but any other problems, they would come and talk with me. That okay, I'm having this issue, and you mentioned that you have went through that. Could you guide me? How would I do it?
Nice.
And I felt that I was able to shape up the future career.
Right. You know what? I mean, I'll just tell you one story. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
yesterday what happened, one of my reports, she has joined the company pretty recently, okay, just out of college. And she was having a problem and she just pinged me. Like out of the blue, we have our 10-10 every week but she just pinged me that, Agent, can I have a quick chat
Quick
with you?
chat, yeah.
I said, okay, perfectly fine.
Sure.
So she was going through some problem, and that problem was like she couldn't figure it out, and she was not sure that when she could do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Just she wanted to vent it out, and that's it, right?
Exactly.
And then I said, okay, that's fine. I mean, take your time, and we don't have any, aggressive timeline. Take your time, you'll do it. I know you will do it. And she was like, I said, thank you very much.
Exactly.
And I said, I didn't do anything. She said, no, you just listen, right?
Exactly.
So
people don't do that.
just be there can make a lot of difference
Absolutely.
in these scenarios, right? And I totally get it. Like if a student who look up to you, who would just come to you and just discuss his problem, maybe you would have a solution to that, maybe not.
Exactly.
But you are there to listen to them.
Exactly.
At least,
And they
right?
feel like they are being heard.
Heard. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's really good, and I like that approach of yours as well. And that is exactly what transpired for next 2.5 years in the
So
university.
you were there for
For 2.5 years,
Okay.
and then I made a switch, went to another university.
So
where I met.
you just loved your job over there.
Yeah, absolutely. There was about 10 plus subjects I've taught, from product design to CAD CAM to industrial engineering to engineering graphics.
Nice.
Yeah, I've
So
played,
while doing
I've played
that
a lot.
at that young age, like did you kind of thought that this is the thing that I want to do throughout my life, or like?
So when I was nearing my 2 years, I looked back and said, what is that missing out from the journey that I am having here?
So little introspection.
Introspection I always do. Every year that finishes, I say that's one year less from my life. What have I done in this 1 year? Do I really want to continue what I've been doing? And within that span, I have noticed that I'm being too repetitive in terms of teaching the same courses again and again. And that is something that I really did not like. So first semester you have taught this, next year, first semester you're teaching the same course.
Right.
So I always played around with teaching, but up to certain point you could expand.
I mean, you were thinking that for your growth you didn't have anything.
Exactly.
Right.
And I was like, what about research? What about research?
It was becoming mundane for you.
Exactly, mundane in that sense. And I was like, okay, I need to go into a research route. And then when I made a switch to a different university, which is Symbiosis, they had a very Symbiosis Pune, they have a very high sort of emphasis on doing research along with teaching. And
so your reason for switch was nothing monetary or something.
Yeah.
It was more of like the work you did, like you liked it, but somehow it was missing something. And the missing part was a kind of a research thing. This institute has this research program.
Yes, and then they had a PhD program as well. And I was like, okay, I could go into that as well. That was one of the selling point from the institute as well. That okay, we also run a PhD program for our faculties. They can also join us full time, part time. So that was one thing, and that's where I met Krushita in Symbiosis.
Awesome. So tell me that story.
So
how did you do that?
I actually found her definitely using one of those like jeevansathi.com profile. My parents reached out.
Till that time, it starts.
It's
like
yeah,
you have to
and
get
she was studying in the same university, Symbiosis. And then when I met her, I was teaching here at my previous institute.
Oh, so that's the thing.
That's
you
the
came
thing.
here
Yes.
for Ruchita. Research would be the secondary thing. I would say.
Yeah, I would say research then became secondary, but I never heard about Symbiosis engineering branch until I met her.
Oh.
It is always famous
MBA.
for MBA, right? Everybody knows Symbiosis for MBA.
Yeah.
Nobody knew Symbiosis for its engineering. So I was like, oh wow, they recently opened the university. Okay, how is the culture and stuff like that? And she was like, okay, we are the first batch. They were the first graduating batch. So why don't you? They were always looking for this. Why don't you go on the website and apply? So I applied it. Just like I was like, here's what I'm doing right now.
I want to talk to you for a longer period of time, so why not just join your college?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So simple,
right? So I applied and their HR reached out and was like, we like to profile, please do come over for interview. And this time there were not a lot of candidates. I was just one person. When there, in terms of interview, there was no formal sort of interview. I just went and met the director. And during this switch, we had our Roka already. So
Roka, like it's more
yeah.
of kind of engagement.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
Yeah. So my director said that, do you have anything that you would like to
Tell us.
Any questions?
I'm in courtship
Yeah.
period.
So I said, my fiance is a student here. So he looked up to me and said that he thought for a minute or two, was like, what to respond to this guy. So he said, that's fine as long as you maintain the dignity of the position.
Right.
I don't see a problem here.
Right.
I said we were engaged, and we have already been engaged. And what she does, I was like, she is a final year student in computer science. So what's her name? I was like, okay, I might know her.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Because of like different things.
So she was very.
So she was very sort of
extrovert.
She was introvert in terms of, but
the
director knew her because of the she used to go for admission for the first batch of the institute, that is with the whole kind of a family of 10-15 people coming to drop her. So it impresses the it gives the good vibe to a director who is running a new institute, that okay, there are like 10-15 people coming to drop her off for the first time. And she has done her bachelor's from Nirma, the diploma from Nirma. So she is kind of inserted directly into a second year of the program.
Lateral entry.
So lateral entry. So director also knows sort of those students who are also coming directly for a lateral.
And because that was the first batch.
That was the first batch, right?
Like,
So definitely, and she told me about this, that when she was going for the first day, there were like 10 people who came to drop her. So, and they met the director as well.
Nice.
So somehow that sort of left an
like
impression to
the
her.
impression in his mind.
And they were like, oh yeah, I might know her.
Nice.
Yeah. So and then there was like crazy stuff, because now I have my brother-in-law also studying in the same university. My cousin is also
kind of
studying.
like,
So we are all coming in the same car and then diversing, like digressing
Nice.
toward different directions,
Nice,
going
nice.
toward different directions. I'm going to a staff room and she's going to her class.
So life must be like.
At the
awesome.
time, it was awesome. I published also. I had never forgot about my research. I published about 20 odd research papers. During my 2.5 years that I was there.
In symbiosis.
And then that
So 2 years.
2.5 years as singer.
And
2.5 years in symbiosis.
5 years.
5 years proper. I thought,
Academy.
yeah, and I'm so old in my. There's a famous word in the academia in US. It's called pedigree.
Okay.
I'm so old in my pedigree of teaching that when Ruchita did her masters from UT Dallas, her classmate was my student. So somebody who I taught during 2010 was sitting in the same classroom next to Ruchita, and like making her feel like, oh, you are like, madam, I would do this, I would drop you, and stuff
Good
like
karma,
that.
good karma.
So that was an experience for
So
me as well.
what happened after that? Like during this 2.5 years, you got married?
I got married. I got married, and I was like, okay, let's now focus on what else to do. And Ruchita was very supportive in that okay, the same story is happening over here. You're doing your research, but at the same time you're teaching the courses, right? So your focus should, if you are thinking of making a next step, why don't you do PhD?
So after 2 years,
After
again that retrospective
came,
play,
yeah.
and then you thought that what next?
Yeah. You could publish like 100 papers. You could do 1,000 papers, but who are you competing with? Where is it leading to? So
let me just hold back and talk
Sure.
about this like paper publishing thing. So how does this work? Like publishing papers.
So publishing paper has multiple ways that you could do that. If you are researching as a professor, along with a graduate student, there is one way of doing it. If you're a professor and writing the literature review or stuff like that, that's a separate story. So writing a paper has a different means. A technical article, you can publish a full-length paper, you can publish a conference paper.
Okay.
So these are like different types of research that counts as a publishing.
Okay. And where it goes?
Where it goes is different journals.
Okay.
And different journals have a very special editions that
Okay.
this issue would focus on this topic.
So is it necessary, like, let's say,
It needs to align with.
Okay, I wrote them something and they have to publish it, or like
They can reject it because
as well?
there might be a blind peer review of 3 different reviewers who
Right.
might comment and send it to you.
There might be
their
plagiarism.
recommendation. Exactly.
Right.
So there are different ways. So my papers that I published were some of the project work that I've guided my bachelor students with. Like I've worked on some of the new airbag design and stuff like that.
And it has
And-
all to do with whatever courses that you have been teaching.
Yes, and also something that has not being taught in the classroom.
Right.
But I've done
But
something
related to that.
aerospace payload fairing and designing a new system for aerodynamic wing body.
Nice.
Other like eVTOL, some of those
Right.
things like vertical
So
takeoff and landing.
metallurgy or
So it's like aerospace, metallurgy, maintenance, like
nice.
those are the areas
Again,
that
your brother is coming
yeah,
to you,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Interesting.
So some of these, like I've never like confined myself to that okay, I'll be doing research in this, but I've kind of in a way kind of
Expanded,
broadened
horizon.
broadened the horizon, and then
So then when you have to like when you retrospective,
yes,
when you were thinking that what next, so I mean research was in your top 10,
in my top 10.
and then next would be if you really want to take this easy
Exactly,
job
exactly,
like permanently and
exactly.
just like yeah.
And then I was like,
I
okay,
mean, you cannot have like both the legs into
exactly.
course, right? You want to
And
have
the courses that I was teaching to master students as well. I was teaching to MTech students as well. One of the courses that I've taught product design. The book was written by one of the professors from UT Austin. So after we got married, we came to US for our honeymoon, and we stayed here in US for 45 days. And one of the base location for our kind of visit was Austin. So I made sure during 2013 when I visited US first time with Ruchita that I would visit this professor and I would meet him because he wrote this book and it's a great book and I'm following this book. I would like to see the approach that this person has.
this is
So
I don't know whether it's bizarre or this is like next level.
yeah.
Because I mean, you are coming to your honeymoon, but you
Making
had
sure,
your you had your itinerary in a way that I'm going to see
I'm
this
gonna
process.
say yeah.
And the thing is, Ruchita was okay with
Okay
it.
with
and
it,
supporting
absolutely.
And this is like
Yeah,
awesome, buddy.
yeah.
This
So
is awesome.
I said that I would make sure that one fine day I would do a visit to the university, and then I would. So I went there with Ruchita as well. I went there and I did not know that you would need a prior appointment and stuff like that. So I met the assistant and I said I would like to see Professor Crawford. And she said, "Are you on appointment?" Yeah, I was like, "No, I'm just." So his office hours were some other day, so I couldn't meet him in person, but I could see his lab because it's an open lab.
Oh, is
so
it?
yeah,
Okay.
like anybody can go. These are public universities, so anybody can walk in. And then I saw that different experiments that he used to have conduct and all. And then that was the kind of flexibility that I had, that I went there and made sure that I see the university. And in that space, I've seen PhD students studying, doing research, very hands-on. That sort of sparked ignition in my head that if I want to do a PhD, I would do it from a university like UT Austin. That sparked, because the whole 1 hour tour of the department, looking at different projects, looking at different things that students have built and they are there, like SAE car, Baha car, different like centrifugal pumps and stuff like that. They were there for display.
So let me ask you this: like,
Yeah.
you had an offer with IRAC.
Yes.
So
Back in when I completed my
right.
my masters.
So I mean, do you have anything to compare how the PhD program is being done in India and how it is done?
I could say right now that at that time I would have not had this broader sense of comparing, but now I do. That how different universities in India and universities in US have their approaches towards the PhD program.
So but at that point of time, you did not
yeah,
have any point
yeah,
of comparison.
yeah, at
But
that
still,
time-
you thought that, like, because you have seen the
I have seen how
The
people
things-
have done, and they would write that this project was completed by a PhD student, and
Right.
So
So
what?
even if you didn't see anything in
Yes.
India, but whatever you have seen in US, it
Yes.
kind of blew your mind.
Blew
that
my mind,
This is,
and
if I were to do, if I were to take this
Exactly.
route, this is where
Exactly,
I
and
understood.
as I told you that my university where I was teaching at Sambas is also offered a PhD program. So I've
Right.
seen the quality or seen
Got it.
the in-house
Got it.
PhDs.
Got it. So at least you had something
So I
to
have
compare.
compared. I
Yeah.
have
not
something.
with the best thing,
Yes.
not with the
Yes.
IISc, but at least
Yes,
how
and having parents also giving inputs about their
Right.
PhD journey
Right.
and how they did their in literature
Right.
also helped.
Right.
So that
So once you have gone from US,
yeah,
that thought has started.
Thought has started, and I told this to Ruchita as well that if I am applying for a PhD, I would rather do it like hands-on, something which is from a great university like UT Austin. So I started applying, went back, and then started applying for GRE preparation, and then I guess it was one of TOEFL exam. TOEFL and GRE. I started preparing for that. Took me a year to set everything because the deadline for a fall is like in December and stuff like that. So I had to give the full 1 year to prepare myself and write SOP, and so I applied to 10 different universities. Got admitted from Texas A&M.
When you apply, do you need to give your like intention of
Yes,
research?
exactly, and that's the most critical thing. It's called statement of purpose.
Statement of purpose.
Why we should hire you
No,
in the
that's
department.
statement of purpose. What I'm trying to say is like, do you have to choose like which subject you're going to
Yes.
research and all those stuff?
So you have to write a statement of purpose that why are you thinking that doing a PhD from this department is your passion, or why would you kind of do it? So you have to take specific examples there. You have to write that this professor's work in this field
Got it.
is very inspiring to me. I have done something similar like this.
Got it.
So you have to give sort of one or two professors' name and what they are doing,
Right.
because the committee who would read it.
To legitimize your ask, you
Ask.
have to
Yeah.
create, spin a story around it
Yes.
so properly so that they can tell us that it's not like you just want to do a PhD.
Yeah.
It's PhD in this particular department under this
Under
because
this,
of these
because of
things.
these things, exactly. And I had at that time, as I told you, I published like 20 odd research papers. So I had a backing of those on my CV, on my statement of purpose. I could write that I have experience of publishing papers in various journals on various topics.
Right.
So I could like write that thing down.
Right. And then you have applied in UT Austin or Texas A&M?
I have applied to UT Austin, Ohio State University, Texas A&M University, Northwestern, so many other universities. Like about 10 universities I have applied to. Got admit from Texas A&M. Didn't hesitate a bit. Now the dilemma was both of us were working. Ruchita was working Volkswagen, and I was working. We both had our salaries and all.
And
Now-
you were staying in Pune?
Yeah, we were staying in Pune. We had like full
Setup
over there. Now this PhD offer acceptance has come. So now we have to make a decision that how are we kind of doing this?
So
Because
when
we
you
will
come
have
for a
to-
PhD, like, is it like do you get a research fellowship or
You,
something?
you do get a research fellowship, but the amount would be minimalistic in terms of what you are earning right now versus what you will earn as a research fellow.
Would it cover your stay or food over
Yes,
here?
it would. It would cover. Back in the day, it was less, but now they have increased it. Um, just to give you a number, back in the day it was 1150 per month,
Okay.
and now it's like 2400,
Okay.
which
But
is pretty decent.
back in the day, like 1150, was it okay to like
It
rent
just barely sustain
barely sustain
for two
okay.
people.
Oh, okay.
Yes, just
Okay.
and then I'm just talking
Because-
about 2016. It's not even a
No,
decade
like
ago.
yeah, exactly, man. Right.
Just 2016 I'm talking about. So 1150.
The smallest apartment.
The
with
smallest
like
apartment with
smallest
minimalist.
car, minimalistic
Yeah.
lifestyle. Got it.
Not even a car at this point.
Got it.
Then it kind of went from 1150 to 1800.
So how
1800
did
to
you
200.
guys decided whether you have
So
to come?
yeah, so we decided that this is a great opportunity. Department is really nice, and I would definitely would like to
Explore
go
that.
and explore that. And at that time, 3D printing was not in the picture at all, because that is something that I've never researched.
And that was this research was regarding a 3D printing.
And the PhD is in 3D printing.
Oh.
So my PhD was in additive manufacturing, which is 3D printing. So
So I guess that was kind of a push from you that you would learn something new, right?
absolutely, absolutely. So when I came to the department, I met few professors and I explored what they do. But I never felt like, okay, I'm excited to join this group because of the theoretical and the experimental approaches that they were having, which are not aligning with what I was passionate about. I was more passionate about product design, rapid prototyping, stuff like that, because of how my masters and bachelors and other journeys have been. So when I explored it, I found a professor who was willing to give me a shot in a new machine that their department have procured for a 3D printing of metal components. It's called laser powder bed fusion, the technique, and the machine was Renishaw company, UK company. So now I was very fascinated. I was like, okay, can you make parts using powder? And then with the laser, I would definitely give it a try. So professor was like, okay, let's give it a try over a summer. So over a summer, I was a kind of a summer research fellow with the professor, and then I did some experiments. I really liked it. And then this journey of 5.5 years started from that point. That how I would like to do a research in this space. What is that I would like to investigate?
Nice.
And how that investigation would span over so many years. I had to
Nice.
literally sit down, prepare a Gantt
So
chart.
when you started, like
Yeah.
you came with Ruchita,
I came with Ruchita.
so Ruchita had to like do away with the job.
That is the greatest sacrifice she has made. I had something to do at house in terms of attending school, in terms of coming back and doing homework. But I think about her that she's a dependent on F2 and absolutely nothing to do. All she could do was, some volunteering work and stuff like that, because she could not study, and if she can study, she is not able to study full time because of the restriction. She cannot
Because
work
the restriction
of F2.
Okay.
If you are a dependent, you cannot take
So like
classes like
and I guess
full time.
like you guys would have your financial burden as well.
Yeah,
that,
absolutely,
Like,
right?
2% like spending.
2%
yeah.
spending, and absolutely. So she was very accommodative in that
Nice.
sense, and her sacrifice is right there in
Awesome.
top list of
Awesome.
what I look up to.
Nice.
So-
And then see, I mean, just imagine like you both embrace the journey without knowing how it's gonna be.
Yeah.
But then
Completely
both of
new.
you of you have this like faith, right?
You got
She
it.
had a faith on you that
Yeah.
whatever you're gonna do, it will be best
There
for
were
both of you. Like,
there were
this is the-
there were question on few instances that we were questioning that have you made a right decision, and
there must be instances.
because now you are doing groceries and you're picking everything and walking for a mile to take the bus, and
Come
it was a very
right and
very
and,
different journey, right?
and from the
typical struggle.
background that you guys have come from,
yeah.
and like from the lucrative job
Yes,
that you both
exactly,
had, right, in India,
Totally.
and then like even thinking of something like that's really a big thing.
Exactly. So
Right.
so many instances have come where we question that whether this is the
Have you
right
taken
move,
the right decision or not?
but we kept the faith.
But that faith.
Faith and then self-belief. By now, I have that. Okay, I would
And I guess
do that.
that's the time when you can, like, that companionship.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That
It gets
it's
stronger.
Stronger.
You get mutual respect for each other.
Right?
And then when she saw my journey, and by the time I was in third or fourth year of my PhD, she was like, I would also do a master's.
See?
Why sit idle and do
Nice.
nothing?
Nice.
And then she converted her F2 into F1. She got into UT Dallas, and
Until that time, you must have figured out a lot of things.
yeah,
and-
absolutely. I was like, okay, now people know me in the department.
Right.
They know that this guy is like now
Right.
Working on this, and I published
Budding
few
star.
papers. Few papers were published and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean,
So
overall,
this is journey, man.
this
I
is
mean,
the journey.
right?
Like so,
Right, and that's what I always kind of thank God for, for my wife.
Sure,
as
sure.
well. The way sometimes you feel very low. Sometimes
Exactly.
and it's life. We're human beings. There would be ups and downs, but in those down, when you have somebody to look up to, like just be there, and
True.
and that's what I guess the real companionship would be, right?
Got it.
To be there with your journey, to
Exactly.
have that faith, right?
and keep you on the
Floating,
on the float
right?
and, yeah, exactly. Keep you directed to your end goal. So
Right.
when I received my PhD, I already had a job offer for Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh for a postdoc. So I accepted that offer, moved to Pittsburgh.
And until that time, Ruchita was
Yushita and I graduated in the same month
awesome.
in May 2021.
Awesome.
Yes, so hers and my graduation happened in 2021. We moved to Pittsburgh, stayed there for a year, did my postdoc from Carnegie Mellon. She found a job in Pittsburgh with SAP. So she was
And she used to drive 2 hours each day.
she used to drive like 4-5 hours a day. She used to take a class in UT Dallas. One day, like Thursday, she would have 3 classes on one single day. So she would start from about 6 to 7 a.m. from College Station. She would drive to Dallas, reach there for 9 or 10 o'clock class. 10 to 1, 2 to 5, and then 6 to 9 or something. And then she would, at the end of the 9 p.m., she would drive back 3 hours to College Station. So
This is awesome.
College Station to Dallas were like crazy amount of travel. It's like about 200 miles or something, or
Nice.
more than that,
Nice.
because till the university is quite
Nice,
far.
nice.
So she used to travel 500 miles, take 3 courses. So she nailed it.
Awesome, man.
Yeah,
Hats off.
yeah,
Hats off to
yeah.
her.
So-
Like, respect.
Yeah. So now she doesn't drive at all. She completely
has done all
she has
the
done all
driving.
her driving. So she would do that for Thursdays. I remember for the whole semester. So that has put a lot of miles on my car back in the day. It's like, I'm watching you.
Awesome, man. So we have spent quite a bit of
Yeah,
time.
sure,
We'll wrap
sure,
this up
sure.
and then we'll do a part 2.
Yeah.
But before wrapping it up, I just say that, like, after that, how you landed in a corporate job.
Yeah, so my postdoc was in Carnegie Mellon, and I was like, I had a fair idea of what to expect in a postdoc position, which is preparing yourself for a future professor, basically, making you an independent research personnel. And I had that experience for about 11 months, and I was like, no, I'm ready to move and implement what I've learned so far into a real world application. And EOS stood out as a champion in terms of what they do. So I applied.
So very briefly, can you tell me like what your company?
Yeah, absolutely. EOS stands for Electro-Optical Systems. They started as a 3D printing pioneers for one of the techniques of 3D printing. So you can print. 3D printing is something like you can print layer by layer using a material deposition. That material could be in the form of powder, in the form of milk pool, what should I say, like a wire. And then it could be plastic, it could be metals, it could be glass. Within these like 6-7 branches of 3D printing, one where I did my PhD, is called laser powder bed fusion. And EOS is a company which has pioneered that sort of technique over the last 30 years. So they are like the apples in terms of that particular laser powder bed fusion technique.
Nice.
So
You love your job.
I love my job, and it has a lot of technical consulting in it. And I used to love it, and I enjoy it.
So
I work on projects. I work on research writing. I do proposal writing for the company for fetching different federal fundings and stuff like that.
Nice. So like,
It's very out.
would you say that you have got your calling or not?
Oh, yeah. I would say I would keep pushing for that. Eventually, I would get it. That would be the highest in that pyramid.
And every 2 years you will
Yes,
have your
yeah,
retrospective, right?
exactly. I would give 2 years to retrospect. So yeah, I'll be finishing 2 years next year, and then I'll have a again, some sort of tuning if I need to explore in certain directions.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was the journey. Yeah, so from
I
from my childhood to how I did my PhD.
Yeah, I just loved talking to you
Absolutely.
through your journey, and
Thank you so
this
much.
has been one of those like few hours where you
Never felt like you were talking for so long.
And another thing is like I now know that there could be many more parts where we can talk about a lot of things like literature, like aeroplane, right? My favorite topics like philosophy, right?
Absolutely.
Whatever, right?
Yeah,
We can keep on
we can
doing
talk.
that.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you so much.
it's a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yes,
so
thank you very
much.
much.